Wells Fargo presents one of the surest ways to grow your money. A Wells Fargo CD account, where you can earn a 5.00% annual percentage yield on an 11-month term with a minimum opening deposit of $5,000. Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/CD rates to open a CD account and start growing your savings with us.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
Hey, it's Storyworthy. Today on the show, comedian Theo Von talks about killing squirrels with his father.
He started throwing these Kit Kats out to the squirrel, right? And then in the distance, another squirrel was hopping over, dude. And I don't know how this first squirrel knew about the second squirrel, because I just can't imagine how he knew. Because, I mean, he had to be 100 yards away. So how do a squirrel know, unless maybe a bird went by, saw the one squirrel, and then maybe gave a sign to the second squirrel that was further away?
Today on the show, comedian Theo Von shares a very funny story about killing squirrels with his father. Stay close.
They said it would take a man 40 years to listen to Storyworthy, but Andy Dufresne did it in less than 20.
I'm Theo Von, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show or a new listener, welcome to Storyworthy. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the show last week with comedian Kirk Fox. Kirk is a very talented guy, and he talks about meeting the hugging Amma. I don't know if you've ever heard of that person, but it's one of these, like, iconic, I don't know, cult figure? I don't know, man. But anyway, it's a great story. Go back, listen to Kirk Fox, but not today. Today, stick with me, because comedian Theo Von, one of the hottest comedians out right now, shares a story about feeding chocolate to squirrels with his father. Kit Kats, to be specific, and you're going to hear all about it today on Storyworthy. Before we get to Theo's story, I wanted to remind you guys that I'm bringing back stories from the last 12 years because they are certainly still storyworthy, and I am spending more time on my other show, My Life in 3 Songs. My Life in 3 Songs is exclusively on Spotify, and this is where I talk to comedians about the 3 songs in their life that have impacted them. Songs that paint a picture of the comedian and where they're from, not necessarily their favorite songs, but songs that are important to them. So you guys, please check out mylifein3songs.com, and also on social media, follow My Life in 3 Songs at My Life in 3 Songs. All right, you guys, let's get over to Theo Von's story. I know you're going to love it. Put your hands together for Theo Von.
So when I was young, I was a child. I mean, most of us go through that. And my dad was very old. My dad was 70 years old when I was born. My dad was born in 1910. And I remember when I was probably about 11 years old, and I was tall enough, my dad would let me drive for him. As long as I was tall enough, he would let me drive him. So I had, I'd hit a little growth spurt kind of early, and so my dad would let me drive him around. And I remember times where we would go to the post office, and he couldn't, there was nowhere to park or nothing. So he would just say, well, just drive around the block a couple times and come pick me up. And I would go around the block, and I would just I remember one time I probably hit 5 or 6 cars going around the block. And my dad's car was a piece of shit. It was like a Delta 88. And it was all banged up, and he couldn't tell if it was banged up or not, just because he wasn't that good at looking at things and seeing them fully. So he didn't really know. So I come back around and just pick him up. My dad worked at colleges sometimes to make money. He was like one of those men, now they have people in the airports that yell at you. It's usually black people that yell at you to come over and fill out credit card applications. Well, my dad was one of those people before those people were mostly black. And so he would go to college campuses, and he would have, people come over and fill out credit card applications. And he always had some kind of bait or ruse that these companies give you, like Chase or Visa or Citibank or something. They give you a item, like a bait, come get this neon green duffel bag, you know what I'm saying? Or come get this, a double-sided Frisbee, or just some bullshit, come get this, like a kettle or something, or just something, come get this tea kettle. Just some bullshit. So anyway, my dad would go up there and he would be at the college. He would yell for people to come over, and every application that we got filled out, my dad got $2. So that's how it worked for those people at that time. And my dad would take me and he would let me drive him. And then we'd drive maybe 70 miles to get to some of the colleges. So I'm sitting there 11, 12, maybe max, just driving, and I'd be hitting 70, 80 miles an hour cruising, bro. I wasn't afraid to open it up. I wasn't afraid of speed even at such a young age. And so I'd open it up and get us over to the universities or whatever. Then we get out there and bark, and get the people to come over to the tables and make the credit card applications. And so that was pretty cool, man. It was pretty fun. And my dad's car was a piece of shit though. Like it was a piece of shit on the outside, and then the inside was just like more of like a homelier type of piece of shit environment. Basically he had stacked like any kind of things he'd ever had in his life was all in his car. It was wet down by the bottom. He had some speakers in the back because he brought the car off a brother somewhere in New Orleans. So, and one of the speakers had broken, and they had a thing of old Chinese food in it. So it rattled. And didn't even do no speaking really. It just one of them just basically just rattled with Chinese food. So anyway, that was kind of the car we were in. I had 3 brothers and sisters. I had a brother that was 2 years older than me, and 2 sisters that are 2 and 4 years younger than me. And my parents got separated. So on the weekends, a lot of time, my dad would just take us and spend time with us. But he always had like things he had to do or something, and so sometimes he would just buy us like a bag of pies from the Burger King, and he would take us over to the park and drop us off. And the crazy part was they had other kids at the park whose parents had dropped them off. So you'd just be at the park. But, and so sometimes we would just be out there eating pies all day and just living life really, and just being children. And then, and one time, the bait that they had given him for one of these credit card companies was a Kit Kat candy. Kit Kat candy. It's like in an orange kind of candy wrapper. You open the wrapper, they got candy in there. They ain't fooling anybody with their fucking game plan, right? They're honest. This is it. Kit Kat candy, right? So, that was the bait. You get people to come over, you give them the Kit Kat, they do the applications. So my dad had a bunch of Kit Kats in his car, and like cases, bro, like 4 or 5 cases, and they would heat up and get real hot and all fucking melt, and then they would cool out again. And they would get cool. So he was always bringing them inside and out of the house because they'd have to cool off these Kit Kats. So when we was over there one time, we was running just literally, we were basically just doing slave labor. No offense if you're a slave. But we were doing like modern day child slave labor, dealing with a man who had maybe about 7 or 8 boxes of Kit Kats. And we just running them in and out of the house to put them in the cooler. Well, so one time, that's just really the setup for the story. That's really just like the tertiary environment. So let me take you guys up to the front seat right now. So, a lot of time my dad liked to rest because, he was older, and older people like to rest because, just because eventually they're going to be resting for a while. So they figure they kind of get a little lead in on it. So my dad would go to the park sometimes with us and just be like, y'all clean out the car and then y'all go play, right? That's the rule. So we would try to clean out the car, man, but the car was fucking uncleanable, dude. They sometimes had animals down in there. They had roaches living in the car. They had, the car was disgusting, dude. It was disgusting. We must have cleaned it 70 times, and it was disgusting before and after we cleaned it. The ceiling was always hanging down. It had like one of them ceilings, like a old lady's just skin. And so it was always just kind of hanging down onto your head. Well, so this one time we was over there by the park, and my dad was resting. And he was resting. He said, all right, y'all clean out the car and then crack you open a little case of Kit Kats because it was somebody's birthday. So we got a whole case to ourselves. Well, first we started and just sitting over by the car and just started throwing some Kit Kat out because we saw a squirrel. So a squirrel would come and get this Kit Kat. And squirrels, honestly, dude, they're kind of assholes, bro. I really refer to them kind of as like the Persians of the animal kingdom. They'll like take shit from you, but then they act like you didn't even just fucking give it to them. So that kind of pisses me off a little bit. But anyway, no offense if you use a Persian squirrel. And if you're offended by that at all and you're not a Persian squirrel, then you fucking suck. But onward. So what had happened was we started throwing these Kit Kats out to the squirrel, right? And then in the distance, another squirrel was hopping over, dude. And I don't know how this first squirrel knew about the second squirrel because I just can't imagine how he knew. Because, I mean, he had to be 100 yards away. So how do a squirrel know, unless maybe a bird went by, saw the one squirrel, and then maybe gave a sign to the second squirrel that was further away? I don't know how they would get that message over there. Yeah, something. Yeah, maybe that. Maybe that. So it could have been the squirrel sound. It could have been that. I can't do it as good as you can. So then what had happened was, so we start feeding the squirrels. So next thing you know, other squirrels hopping in the distance and other squirrels hopping. And we're cracking open these Kit Kats, man. And we're cruising through them, bro. Cruising. I mean, we must have given out about 40 Kit Kats, probably. By the time we left, we had 22 squirrels in front of us that we counted, all eating Kit Kats. It was just a huge community of animals just eating little Kit Kats and just enjoying them. And catching a little bit of sunshine. So finally, we got out of there, and that was it, and that was the birthday party. And then about 3 days later, we're with my dad, and they had an article in the newspaper that a bunch of squirrels had died because, and they didn't know why. And I don't know for sure that is what killed these squirrels, but I could not think of any other reason why those squirrels at that park, why they found 20 or something dead squirrels. I cannot imagine at all. But they ate just so many of them, and it just, and I wanted to feel sorry for them, but they just seemed sometimes just so fucking Persian while they was eating them. And no offense if you're Persian.
Is that the funniest story you ever heard? I mean, honestly, that is so crazy. And the way Theo tells it is so great, his accent, and he's just an amazing guy. Super funny. Very funny. Thank you again so much for listening to Storyworthy today. As always, I really appreciate it. I'm an independent podcast producer, and that means I'm doing it alone. So please follow me wherever you are on social media at Storyworthy, and of course also at My Life in 3 Songs. Don't forget to check out My Life in 3 Songs exclusively on Spotify. All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of the very talented Theo Vaughn, have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you next week. My name is Christine Blackburn, saying, make it a Storyworthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.
Hello, Saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.